See that maybe being a next iteration in this offense?
I think there's a lot of different phases, and kind of depending on, defense scheme and, where we can take advantage of defenses will determine like what, maybe new things come up. But I think overall, for us to, that play actually that we hit on with Dayton was actually a play that we've practiced for like months now. And we finally were able to run it, and, for us to execute it that clean was a really good feeling. And honestly, there's a lot of plays like that, whether it's repping against our defense or plays that we've been running for months now, that we're continuing that, really just kind of whenever the opportunity presents itself, depending on, maybe a way defense fitting or whatever another team is doing schematically, that's when we'll decide, probably to run those.
Is that part of the progression? Like maybe in August 31st, you probably run a play in practice 4 or 5 times. Now you've run it a ton. Is that the familiarity that you hope you're developing with this offense?
Absolutely, and I think that's where that's kind of where everyone's at this point. I think, especially, there's a lot of us who weren't able to participate in spring ball, and a lot of us who have played a lot of football, we haven't played a lot in this system, obviously. So for us to, gain these reps, and I think, especially the first couple of games of the season, I mean, there are times that we're running a play for the first time, for against that particular look. Like, I mean, we've run it, against, looks, and we try to do, like, there's only so much time in a practice, and there's only so much, that we can do, from a preparation standpoint until game day. Anything can happen. So I think, that's where we're at in the year now, that we have some reps, we have some familiarity, underneath us, and I think, that experience is going to just help us continue to get better.
Cade, the offensive line has just obviously taken a huge step forward, especially in the run game. I guess, what have you seen there? Do you think it's just the experience kind of fully culminating, or what do you see?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a couple things. I think their experience, one, with the cohesion that they have in that room, and, for them to be getting off the ball. And but I think it's also kind of like with the rest of the, offenses, they're how comfortable they're getting with the plays and the schemes. And now that they've run it, now we've ran it against multiple different fronts, different body types, different all kinds of different guys and teams. And I think, they're starting to have a really good understanding of what it's supposed to look like. How can, their blocks, how can they work together, to do their job. And I think their understanding of that is grown tremendously.
Do you think pass pro is coming along? Are you comfortable with where it's at? Is it like where are you at with that?
Yeah, I've always been comfortable with the pass pro. Really just the more that I can get the ball out on time, then it makes the O-line's job easier.
Is that just like a communication thing, like you going through reads kind of thing, or how does that, maybe solidify a little bit better?
Yeah, I think kind of the big challenge, both for me as a quarterback on getting the ball out on time, is can I get the ball out to the third and fourth progression in the same timing that I would get the first read. And that's been something that I've been really, I think, growing at in these last couple weeks. Is I'm able to get to the third and fourth progression off what would be the timing of the first guy in the progression. And I think the more that I'm able to do that, and every single week, defenses are going to show different challenges and different, confusing looks. And I think just the more that I can, prepare myself for those looks, it'll really help the team. And I can, that's just what I'm trying to do is, how can I, play quarterback in a way that gives us the best chance to win.
To the average person, I mean, that sounds difficult. Getting to your third, fourth progression as quickly as you would your first. Is that just like pre-snap reads, or?
It's a combination of both. So it's pre-snap, understanding what my possibilities are, and then also looking at body language, eyes, and then movement post-snap as well. And I think, that's a part of playing quarterback, and I think that's part of the challenge too of playing quarterback.
What's the DNA of this Michigan State team? New coach, you're probably finding new things out from last year's team. So what do you see on their defense?
Yeah, I think overall, they've played really good teams. I think that's kind of what the film shows, is that they've played good teams. They have talent, and they have some speed as well. And I think, they have overall they can be very confusing. And I think, that's going to be a good challenge for us, is that they'll show a variety of looks. And, I think that's that's a part of the week for preparation in terms of, what we need to focus on. And I think, how can we best be prepared for some of those looks, and because they're a good defense, they have a lot of variety, and just like any defense in the Big Ten, competing and preparing is a challenge during the week.
What's it been like in terms of having Brendan in for that goal line package, kind of from your perspective? And have you ever been in kind of a situation like this?
Well, I've been in this situation before where they would, Michigan would use JJ to run a little bit, and it kind of, we've had some success with that, and I think he was able to run for a first down when it was short yardage. So whatever keeps the ball moving.
Cade, this past game, offense, defense, special teams finally seemed like it all clicked. Is that kind of what you guys have been striving for? Is that four-quarter game where everything seems to finally come together?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, kind of like that little lack of consistency is, at times it can be frustrating that, when you're as a competitor and as a team, when we're not playing to our full potential, that can be frustrating and it can lead to losses. And I think for us to, put in the great week of practice that we did last week, and for us to really just play a complete game on Saturday was just overall just a really big step for our team. And I think it just goes to show the effort that the guys are putting in during the week, that we're still striving to get better even through wins and losses, adversity, success. And I think and now we're going to a week where we won a game instead of lost a game. That shouldn't change at all. I think I really think that the guys are approaching it that way.
Getting a win like that against a good team at Washington, talked about momentum a lot after, like you just said, after a loss or a win. How does that build momentum going into Michigan State?
I mean, it definitely builds momentum. I think, when losing games is tough on everyone because we work so hard. We work, endlessly from January on to make sure that we don't lose. And, when we do, it's difficult, but we have to learn from it and we have to get better. And I think, for us too, I think kind of like our theme this year is, whether it's been good or bad, has been we've just continued to respond. I think, even when there were times earlier in the season when maybe we weren't putting together complete games, both sides were still able to respond. And I think, as a team, we were able to respond last week, and now it's about responding again. Now it's about, maybe not dealing with adversity, but now it's dealing with some success. And I think, the more that we can just honestly just continue to get better, whether, besides the outcome is going to be, the key factor for our team.
You just talked about learning, and after a great